Hey y'all, it's about that time for the next webinar of the day. Who's out there? When you click in, let me know, comment in the chat. Let me see when you're there. I always like to start a few minutes early to let you guys have some time, check in, get settled, grab yourself a drink, get ready to do some learning, all kinds of good stuff. Let me know when you check in, comment in the chat. Let me know who's here. Hi, welcome to today's webinar. Each month we'll do a new webinar talking about some different topics to help people in the wedding and event industry learn. Hey Kara, how are you? Learn some new things on ways to make more money, grow your business. This month we are working on shutting up and listening more, how to make our sales meetings go better, flow better, and learn as much as we can while we are on. I'm muting all your microphones, so you don't have to worry about anybody else hearing you. If you're not muted, I'm muting you out, so that way you don't have to worry. Welcome for those who popped in. Make sure you jump into the chat box. You let us know what it is that you do. What area of business do you focus on? I can tailor some of the examples in the presentation specifically to what it is you do for a living. And for those who don't know each other, make sure you let people know who you are, what you do. There will be a recorded version available. Try to be as present as you can be while you're in here and on here for the time that you are here. But if you get busy and you get distracted and stuff's going on and phone's texting and Facebook's going off, I totally understand because I multitask during my webinars too. But I want to make sure that you get that information you need. So if you miss anything, don't worry about it. I'll be emailing out the links either tonight or tomorrow morning, just depending upon whatever time we finish. I see a few more people jumping on. Make sure you jump into the chat. Let me know what you do for a living. That way we can tailor some of it for you. If you don't follow us on social media, you should follow at Wedding Venue Map. We post different venues around town, share tips from our local vendors, information that is helpful for brides and grooms from planning their wedding. A lot of them are looking for a venue first, so it is a really good opportunity for them to be able to learn what you do and find out more about the different vendors and venues both available around Central Florida. Welcome to anybody who's just joined. Don't forget to use the chat box down there. Share your social media handles. Sharing is caring, right? We can all follow each other on there. I am looking for blogs for weddingvenuemap.com. So if you get a chance, make sure you share some information. If you want to write a helpful blog, helpful tips for brides and grooms to be able to link back to your website, we'll be happy to share it. The website should be launching towards the end of next month. We're getting there one day at a time, slowly but surely. So for those coming on and joining on, welcome. We will start right at 7 because I like to be punctual because I like when people don't waste my time. Please make sure you use the chat box. If there's questions at any point all along the way, ask them. If there's anything you think I might not be covering, I'll tell you when we're getting close to the end. I've done the webinar a few times today, and it takes me about 40 minutes-ish, but it gives lots of time for questions. And if you ask questions along the way, let me know what you want to learn about how to improve your sales process. Let's start out with you guys letting me know a little bit more about where you get stuck. Where do you find when you're trying to sell someone that your biggest challenges are? So that way I can make sure we address them. I am going to pop on the screen share so that you guys can see the presentation. Pop that on for you. We'll get that all going. I'll keep the chat open, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to share them and let me know what I can do to help you along the way. I think there's about 6 or so people, so keep the conversation going and let me know where you get stuck. Ooh, the money talk. Okay, I'll make sure I cover that, Kara. So like I said, today's topic is shut up and listen, sell more by saying less. I'm going to turn off my video so we can focus on the presentation. So for those who don't know me well, my name's Shannon Tara. I'm the owner of Wedding Venue Map and the Shannon Experience. I work with clients mostly in the wedding industry, small businesses looking to learn how to grow their business, sales, marketing, any area setting goals, just creating some more focus for those in the wedding industry. The Wedding Venue Map will be a website and is a printed map that lists every single venue in all of Central Florida, which gives brides and grooms the opportunity to be able to find all of the options out there, which isn't available anywhere else at the moment. For those who do know me, it's pretty ironic for me to be teaching this class called Shut Up and Listen, because I like to talk. Talking is what I do. I do a lot of presentation and public speaking in front of other organizations. So, but those who don't get to see me in a sales type setting, I do a lot more listening and focus a lot more on the client. I used to be an offender who talked too much in meetings, but I found that switching up my process actually helped me make a lot more money. So this will touch a little bit on what you're going to learn today, how to improve your client meetings, poor listening versus active listening, asking questions to find the pain points, easy tips that you can start using today, how to ask for the business, which is the closing the deal and closing the sale at the end. The money talk wasn't high on the list, but Carol, I'll make sure I include it because you put it in there, like where to bring that up in the process. So, and then where to start. You're going to get all this great info, but what do you do with it once you get it? So throughout your sales cycle, your clients will drop clues as to what they're thinking, how they're feeling about you and the products or services that you provide. So in other words, they're telling you what they like, what they dislike, and what's important to them. You really need to listen and pay attention so that you can get that information, because it's the information that you need to close the sale. If you don't listen, then you'll have to work a lot harder in terms of that closing portion that you guys were asking for help on. So why are you here? Like a gardener, you need tools to grow your business. Making more money happens one of two ways. You either grow your profit margins, which means cut expenses and increase the costs, or you can grow your sales. So sales is the easiest tool to increase your revenue. More sales, more money, right? But these behaviors that we're talking about, how can they really help you grow? Well, you can make more money, like we talked about. Converting more leads to closed sales makes you more money. It's way less stressful. When you have a meeting with a client and you're really just learning about the client, it's much more comfortable than trying to actually sit and sell yourself. So it takes the pressure off. It's a satisfying feeling. I don't know about you guys, but nothing's better than getting that email, or when a client or potential client actually says, yep, we're ready for the contract, or we want to move forward with you. It gets like, it used to get me really excited. And when you get that satisfied feeling, you get excited to keep moving forward, and it creates some momentum. For those of you who've never seen this book, you should probably pick it up. Alan Berg is an amazing speaker. He teaches a lot for Wedding Wire. He's one of their educators. But he wrote this great book called Shut Up and Sell More. I've read the book a few times, and I've known Alan for years, but it is a great opportunity for you to continue the education after this class. So one of his quotes from the book is, you'll always know more about your product and services than your customers, but not everyone needs to hear it all. Alan taught me years and years and years ago. I don't want to admit how long ago, but I met him and we did some work together a long time ago. And one of the things he taught me was that by listening to what my clients were asking for and what kinds of packages they wanted and the questions they were asking, I could tailor my packages, my presentation, and my whole entire spiel around what they were asking for. So to stop trying to sell what I thought they should buy and really listen to them and hear it, that conversation I had with him changed my entire perspective of how I sold. I knew the product was good. I knew the service we provided was great, but we weren't really offering the right things, and I wasn't selling it the right way when I was touring and meeting with clients. So really focusing on, not everyone needs to hear your whole presentation. So how to start improving your client meetings. Become aware of your poor listening habits. We'll talk about that next, which one of the 4 most popular bad listeners you fall into. Be more curious about your clients, which requires asking questions, and we'll go over some ideas for that. And then presenting with confidence. This kind of talks about that whole closing the sale and closing the deal and having conversations about money. So before we go into the poor listening habits, one of the ways Kara had asked how to have the money talk. So here's an easy tip for the money talk. At the start of every meeting, I used to do what was called an upfront contract. It means you're letting the client know what's coming. You talk about how long the meeting is going to take, what they can expect, that at some point you have to talk about the budget, and you're looking for some form of answer at the end of the meeting. So I'll do my upfront contract like you guys were a bride and groom coming to tour the venue that I worked at. So this is kind of what it would sound like. So you guys are here today. We're going to take about 10-15 minutes, talk a little bit more about what you're looking for, what your vision for the wedding is, so I can make sure I show you the locations and the spaces that are the right fit. And then we're going to walk around, take a look at everything, depending upon how many spaces. That can be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. Then we're going to go over the packages, the pricing information, all the different options and opportunities. After that is the worst part. We have to talk about the budget. So I'm going to need your help, getting an idea of where the offerings that we have, where they fall within your budget. After everything's said and done, if I know that we're not the right fit for what you're looking for, are you okay with me letting you know today? And they always said yes. Like, wait a minute, Shannon's going to tell us that it's the wrong fit? Like, what vendor or venue is telling you that? No one. And my response would be, and in the same token, if you know that today this isn't the right fit for you, whether it's the budget or what you're looking for, or kind of what you were visualizing, are you okay with letting me know today? So you've opened up the door for the money conversation. So the money talk comes much later, as a part of after we've bonded and rapport and I've made them feel comfortable and I've asked all these questions. I was super curious. I'm showing them I'm a good listener. We don't talk about the money until later, but opening up in the door from the front end of the conversation, telling them that we're going to have to talk about the money at some point, and letting them know that, I know it's uncomfortable. Like, talking about money is not comfortable for anyone. Our society is built around, we don't really talk about it. So it's not unusual for it to be an uncomfortable part of the conversation. It's the same reason why you guys aren't comfortable talking to them about it. So it's just opening that door to say that it's coming. So hopefully, Kara, that's a good tip to help get you started. So let's talk about poor listening. While other people are talking, which one of these are you? So there's 4 different areas. You were preparing your next response as soon as the other party started talking. This is like a racehorse waiting for the gate to open so you could start running. You're just waiting for your turn, and the only reason you haven't spoken is because the other person's still talking and you don't want to interrupt. But you're not really listening at all. You're just waiting and waiting and waiting for them to stop talking. Judging and evaluating. You were judging and evaluating what was being said. So sometimes we're judging good in a good way. Sometimes it's in a bad way. So maybe the bride and groom, I don't know what everybody who's on the webinar does for a living, but if you get a chance, pop it in the box. Are you a planner, photographer, cake, DJ, whatever, just let me know. But if, maybe you're a planner and the bride said, oh, my colors are, Tiffany blue and red. And you're thinking in your head, oh my God, like this is not Tiffany blue and red. It's awful. You're judging, right? You don't even let them finish. You just immediately started judging them. So sometimes or you get distracted by their tone of voice, their gestures, their approach. Either way, any of that can cause you to stop listening to them. You start listening to yourself, and the judging and evaluating you're doing instead of listening to them. The goal is really to figure out which one of these you guys might fall into. So keep listening. You've checked out and started thinking about other things. So this is really popular and happens all the time nowadays. How do I know? Because we all multitask. I multitask all the time. Sometimes I have to stop and turn around and say, wait, what did you just say? Because I wasn't really listening. So, and that can be really embarrassing if it's a sales visit. If it's a sales, if you're in that moment, it makes you look really bad if you do that. So when you're checked out and focused on other things, you really only listening for the snippets that are specific to what you're looking for. The fourth was me, 100%. I jump to conclusions rather than listening. As soon as I hear what I think I want to hear or where I think the conversation's going, I turn into that first one where I start preparing, but I make assumptions and then I stop listening. I conclude the feature or benefit that I have and how it's going to help them. I couldn't wait for them to stop talking so I could impress them with all my happy goodies of what I could offer. So, that was me. Which one was you? Are you the judge or an evaluator? Do you check out and think about other things? Are you a conclusion jumper? I'm a conclusion jumper. Or are you the racehorse? Are you overly preparing your next response? No matter which one of these you are, we're going to go over some tips to help and make it easy. Oh, Kara, that's so funny. She can't have meetings over food because she thinks about the food. Of course. So let's talk about active listening. So passive listening is a lot of what we just talked about. So the goal is to shift your mind into doing more active listening. Well, what does that mean? The active listener pays close attention to the other person's choice of words, their tone of voice, and their body language, which accounts for almost 80% of all communication, which we've heard, right? We've heard that in the past. The listener takes all these components and then repeats it back to the speaker, the important points that the speaker was touching on. So let's talk about what that looks like. When you're an active listener, you do a lot of nodding. You make eye contact. Those types of things affirm that you're actually listening. Active listeners are really good at paraphrasing the speaker's ideas. I never used to do this, but I realized how many times I heard something wrong because I'm a conclusion maker, right? So I stop listening at some point. So when I paraphrase and say it back, I realized that there were times that I said, oh God, or they were like, well, that's not really what I meant by that. So paraphrasing shows active listening. When you listen to the other person's choice of words and you're really, truly listening, and this took me a long time, guys, I didn't do this overnight, but when you're really, truly listening to someone, you can start to listen for clues as to what type of learner they are. So most people are either visual or audio when it comes to how they choose to learn. Some are kinesthetic, but that's a lot fewer. Most people who are kinesthetic still have, which means they're touchy people. They want to touch it, hold it, feel it. You can tell these people if you're a wedding planner because they touch all the linen instead of look at it. They want to feel it all. But most people are either visual or audio in terms of how they learn. But you can figure this out by really listening to them. So if a client is in a meeting with you and they say, I see what you mean, they're a visual person. If they say, I hear what you're talking about, or that sounds good to me, they're an audio. Well, if you have an audio in front of you, you can put down the pictures and just start talking because they learn by hearing. Or you can show them the photos, but make sure you're describing what's in the picture. But it takes some serious active listening to be able to pick up on those really small cues of, I heard what you're saying, or I see what you mean, or that sounds good, or show me more. So those types of things go along with active listening. Another great tip to show that you're an active listener is called matching and mirroring. Those who've seen me in a meeting, if I was in a sales meeting, I do it often, but it's pretty subtle at this point because I've been doing it for years, is that I match and mirror the person that I'm talking to in their body language first and foremost. So if they are sitting on the edge of their seat leaning forward on the table, I subtly will shift my position into the same position. If they are laid back in their chair with their leg crossed across or sitting on their leg, I'll do the same thing. It's not comfortable. I don't like crossing my leg, but it's the subconscious way to make the person you're speaking with feel more comfortable. When they feel like they're looking into a mirror and that you sit how they sit, your tone of voice is how their tone of voice is. If I'm talking to a bride and groom and they're so excited and wedding planning is so fun and I'm loving every minute, I'm going to talk about what I sell at the same tonality. But if she's more laid back and she's a little bit chill and, she's just checking things out and checking it all out, then my tonality has to match hers, because making people feel comfortable with you is part of this process. And when you match and mirror, and you adjust your voice and the speed of the conversation to match them, it makes them feel comfortable, and it shows them they feel like you're active listening. Those are some different ways to be an active listener. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should be using them in that proportion. This is so true, and not what most of us in the industry do. And I know what a lot of you do. Obviously, I don't know everyone on this webinar, but I go on a lot. I am in this window of age where I always have someone getting married. Either like most of my friends are married at this point, but now all of my crop of interns that I had in the past and students that I've mentored at Rosen, they're all getting married. I go to a lot of meetings with a lot of vendors. The vendors do 90% of the talking, and the brides talk only 10%. So you really have to shift this to refocus on them doing, you listening twice as much as they're talking. And that's not easy to do. So one of the ways to do that is really being more curious about your clients. What does that actually mean? Well, you're trying to find out about what they really want. Like, what's frustrating them? What do they like? What do they dislike? Why did they contact you? So it's really figuring out what they want, not what you have to sell. You want to ask a ton of questions. And these questions, the whole point of the questions is to guide you down the path about what they really need. Try to put yourself in their shoes. I don't know about you guys, but planning events and planning a wedding, when I first started in catering, I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. I went to go set up a buffet, and my mentor, Molly, started laughing. And I said, what? And she goes, Shannon, you can't put the plates and then the meat will run out of meat. It goes plates and then salad, starch, and then vegetable, and then the meat at the end, even bread first, and then the meat at the end. And I was like, why? And she said, well, because the meat is the most expensive item, and so it has to be at the end of the buffet. I had no idea. If you didn't know, I just taught you something new of why buffets are normally set up like that. But I didn't know. So when you put yourselves in the shoes of a bride and groom, assuming that for most of them, it's the first time they're getting married. I know it's not everybody, but for most of them, it's the first time, it's a little overwhelming. There's so many options and choices for them to take a look at. So, really only recommending things that will help them and that they need. You start the process of becoming someone they can trust. You're not just selling them on what you think they need. It's figuring out, what do they actually want? Very few people enjoy being sold to, yet we all love buying stuff. Why do you think that online shopping is so hot nowadays? This Christmas, I think they said, is the first year officially that online shopping surpassed retail sales. Well, why is that? No one wants to talk to people, and they don't want to be sold to, but we love to buy. So as stupid as it is, I will order tape off of Amazon if it means I don't have to leave my house and go to the store. I don't know. Who else is an Amazon junkie? You can be honest. It can't just be me. But it's really, most people don't want to be sold. So you have to sell the way they want to buy. You have to start thinking about, what does your process look like? And we are all part of the problem. The entire culture has shifted and changed. So asking open-ended questions to get the information out of them, asking specific questions to clarify that you understand what they're talking about. But what's the whole point, right? Like, why are we even trying to get to know them and connect with them like that? The goal is to do what's called finding pain. Well, what is pain? So pain is the need. When you are talking to a client and you're trying to figure out what is it that they want and that they need, if they don't need your services or need what you have to offer, they're never going to buy. But you can't figure out what they need until you find out what that pain is. So they're not going to buy what you have to offer unless you fulfill their need. It's so much easier to figure out their needs and engage the customer in a dialogue about the specific challenges they're having, rather than running through the talk points that you've said 100 times. I have a client who's a DJ, and the way they used to do their meetings, it was every single meeting was exactly the same. And it was present. This is what you need. This is what you have to have. This is what will make your day a success. Well, there's a lot of information out there. So they're doing some research in advance. They don't always know exactly what they need, but they know what pains they're trying to avoid, what problems they're trying to prevent from happening. All of those things are important to them. So you really have to help work with them to find the pain. Asking questions can help you get to their pain point. Solving pain is why people buy. So how can you help them? The types of questions that you need to ask clients are not yes or no questions. Everything has to give them the opportunity to tell the narrative. So my favorite question to open every single meeting, when it was with a bride or groom, or even with a consulting client, I do this with all of my meetings, is tell me. With a bride, tell me how wedding planning is going. With a consulting client, tell me where you're struggling in your business. And it opens the door. It opens the door for them to say, wedding planning is so great and it's so much fun and I'm having a great time. Or, oh my God, I've toured 42 venues, met with 76 photographers, and, and where they're at. Ask a lot of how questions. How are you going to make a decision? And, how did you find me? And where, what about, tell me what you saw on my website that made you want to contact me. So you're opening up the door to asking lots of questions to figure out what they're looking for. Tell me about the last event you attended and what was the best part of it. Tell me about the worst part of it. What's been the easiest or most challenging part of wedding planning? My favorite questioning technique, as stupid as it sounds, is to just say one word, to just say why. So when I say, tell me how the wedding planning is going, if their answer is, oh, it's been really good, I just say, why? That's it. One word. So stupid. I know. It's so simple. But I used to be like, oh, why? Blah, 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 blah. And then it was me talking. When you slim it all down, you just say, oh, why? Or how so? It keeps the conversation. It throws the ball back into their court. Why is that important to you? The goal is really to figure out what it is, and get that information from them. Because if you can't find out what they need or why they've chosen to see you or meet with you, come see your venue, what of your decorating that they love, what about your pictures that they enjoy, why they think they need a wedding planner, if you don't make the effort to figure those things out for them, then, and figure out what it is they need, you literally have no chance of selling them. So really work on what your questioning techniques are, to walk them down that path. Always remember, the meeting isn't about you. It's not about the products or services that you offer. None of that really matters. It is about if you can fulfill their needs. If you went on a tour with me when I was with a bride and groom, my staff, when I used to train new staff members, they would say, you don't really even talk about the venue. I was like, no. I get to know them, and I treat every single client, potential client or lead who walks in the door, like they're my friends getting married. If I can't help them, I'm honest with them. If I know that there's no way, the look on their face when we start talking budget and they're cringing and she looks like she wants to cry, I'm like, it's okay. We're not the right fit for everyone. But because I can't fulfill their need, because their need is to get what they're looking for within a certain price point. So you're not the right fit for everyone. But if you can fulfill their need, then you'll usually work yourself to a sale. So how to make your meetings improve. So you've got the meeting and now you're meeting with them. These are all things you need to start working on in your meetings. Slow the conversation down. Articulate your thoughts at a digestible speed. I am dumping so much information on you right now in about 45 minutes. But if my tours at Mission Inn, when I worked at a venue, my tours took 2 hours. Like on a Saturday, I could push them into 90 minutes, but that was really pushing it. If I had the time I wanted, it would be 2 hours. We bonded, we got to know each other, we had a good time together. So slow it down. Take pauses in case they need clarification. Ask questions to guide them and help shape the information that they share with you. Take it one step at a time. And this leads into never, ever, 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 ever interrupt them. Ever. Not only is interrupting them rude, it means you missed out on something interesting they may have said if you gave them the chance. I'll give you a great example. So my friend was meeting with a rental company to plan a wedding in her parents' backyard. Beautiful, humongous backyard. And so they said, well, what are you looking for? And so she started talking. She said, well, we're going to do tables and chairs. I think I have the lighting. She didn't finish the sentence. I think I have the lighting, ... And the salesperson jumped in. They started talking tent, uplighting, market lights, blah, 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 all these other things. So what they didn't let her finish by interrupting her was that she doesn't want a tent, that she wants to get married under the open sky and have her reception with the lights twinkling over her. So the idea of a tent and somebody who just spent 10 minutes trying to sell her a tent, she didn't want a tent. So now you actually turned her off. When she was saying, I think I have the lighting, she was saying, I think I have the lighting handled, because a company had already come out, quoted it, walked it, and she was pretty sure her dad had already signed the contract for the lighting. So now they're blah, 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 about lighting, and she's not listening. Like, she's now turned them off. So don't interrupt them. Really give them that opportunity to finish their thoughts and go all the way through. For me, this means I have to sit and cover my mouth sometimes. Like, I actually sit with with 2 fingers, like covering my mouth, because it just reminds me to shut up and listen, because I'm an interrupter for sure. It's personal growth. I'm always working on it. Listen to their emotions. So start by feeling out their tone of voice and their stress level. Learn how to recognize how the volume, their speed, the tone of the voice really indicates how they're feeling. Like, are we okay? Are we excited? Are we stressed? Make it a goal on every call or meeting to think about what the person might be thinking behind the words. Don't just listen for the words. Listen for, like, what's the emotion behind the word. And as a side note, a lot of meetings, quote unquote, in this day and age are happening on the phone or on Skype or on video chat, like we're on Zoom right now. A lot that's happening more and more. So all of these same things about having a meeting, obviously you can't match and mirror how you're sitting, but you can in your tonality and your speed of conversation. So all of this still applies whether you're face to face or you're on the phone with them. Clarify and paraphrase. We've talked about this a little bit. Paraphrase their thoughts in your own words. Show them you care about what they're saying and show them that you understood them. Position yourself as an expert. This is like super duper important. This does not mean you tell them what they need. Okay, let me say that again. This doesn't mean that you're the know-it-all who is educating them to the point at which you're telling them what they need. You need to ask the right questions to plant the seed to get them to come to the understanding. So I've had the opportunity in my career to work for some amazing gentlemen, all older than me, taught me a lot. But one of the things that worked really well for me when I had a great idea and it was super duper outside the box was to plant the seed. I knew that I knew what I was talking about. I knew that my idea would work. But they didn't always want to just take it at face value and do what I say. Clients are very much the same way. So I would kind of plant the seed with them to be like, hey, I saw this cool thing on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd let it go. A few weeks later, they'd come back to me and be like, hey, you know what we should do? And somehow magically it was their idea. I mean, I've done it my whole career with the men that I've worked for. So, it's not the ego blow to me. I don't care because I got my way. I just maybe didn't get it on my time frame. You have to learn how to do the same thing with brides and grooms. So if you're the photographer, you know that it needs to start an hour and a half before the ceremony. Needs to start at least an hour and a half before sunset, right? Because you need to make sure you're not taking pictures in the dark. But instead of telling them that, it's asking questions, right? You make them do most of the talking. So it's asking more along the lines of, well, have you guys decided what time your ceremony is going to be? Let's say sunset's at 6. I don't know, I'm making up times. And they say, yeah, it's going to be at 5:30. Most photographers will respond and say, oh, 5:30 is way too late because the sunset's at 6 and then you'll take all your pictures in the dark. So set yourself apart. Say, 5:30. How did you guys decide that 5:30 would be the start time? Because maybe their next answer is going to be, well, we're going to do all of our pictures ahead of time and where the sun sets at cocktail hour is beautiful, and that way we'll be at cocktail and be able to enjoy it, so we want that to happen during cocktail hour for our guests. Well, guess what? You're the only one who didn't tell them that they're wrong with the time they're starting the ceremony. Because if they're doing all their photos and the first look and everything beforehand, then it shouldn't really matter, right? So making sure that you're asking questions instead of telling them what they need. Figure out, how did they come to that information? What made them think? Don't say what makes you think that's a good idea, but how did they come up with that? And why do you think that that's the right path to take? You have to make sure you're asking the right questions to position yourself as an expert rather than talking down to them. Millennials are very much not okay with that. I find this even with the clients that I'm working with. When I work with younger clients, they hire me because they know I know what I'm talking about, right? But at the end of the day, they still don't want to listen to me when I tell them what to do. So I have to use the same technique. Even after I've sold someone and they're paying me, I still have to use those same techniques to let them figure it out for themselves, but I lead them down the path to get there. Another great way to position yourself as an expert is in terms of referring vendors. Most venues didn't do what we did at Mission Inn. Mission Inn's focus was really on referring the right vendor for each bride and groom, not just handing them a list that would require them to go dig through 7,000 vendors on the internet and then waste their time calling photographers they couldn't afford or DJs that didn't have a Spanish DJ or things like that. So showing them that you're really listening to what their needs are and being able to make a few introductions, even if it's just one in each category, that person's going to turn around and say how awesome you are, is really helpful, and it positions you as an expert, and it establishes you as someone who's looking out for their best interest. So you're really finding out, but referring the right people, not just anyone. Remember the anecdotes. So in this whole conversation process, as you are talking to brides and grooms and you are working with them and you're getting to know each other and you're bonding, they're going to tell certain stories. So are you, but it's more important for them to be telling and sharing. So I had a client recently that I was on the tour with them, and I was just kind of playing assistant and listening along. And the groom mentioned like 10 times that he was Irish. And, the venue person who was doing the tour didn't really connect with that. So in trying to help, I kind of connected with it and was like, oh, we're Irish too, ha ha ha, St. Patrick's Day is like Christmas in my family, blah, 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 right? Which is true. It's all true. But it was me finding a way to connect with him. Well, making that connection using the anecdotes that they share, like I don't have children, so if a bride and groom have kids and, we're cracking kid jokes, I comment about my niece because that's the only kid I really spend a lot of time with, enough time with. Finding ways to remember those, take notes and remember those little teeny tiny nuances from the conversation so that you can refer to them later. This applies to anything about their kid, their family, the way he proposed, where their first date was, how they met. But remember these pieces when you take notes and then use them when you follow up. If you get into that follow-up circle where you're chasing after them, acknowledge the friendly references. It helps you build rapport. It's those little things that make all the difference. So when we followed up with that bride or groom, we did an extra follow-up on St. Patrick's Day. And it was just a big, fat, humongous, funny meme for St. Patty's Day. It wasn't trying to sell them anything. It was just like, hey, I know this is probably a big day in your life, so I hope you're enjoying it. Right? But remember the anecdotes and make sure you're asking the kinds of questions that are going to cause the conversations to go in that direction. How did you meet? How did he propose? Tell me about your first date. What's important to you two? What's important to your families? If you're a photographer, what's the one photo, or the top 5 photos that you have to have on wedding day? Why are those the most important to you? Anything that you can tell a client, you can ask it in a question and get the information from them. More tips. Lose the jargon. Oh, please lose the jargon. Florists are the worst for this, maybe decorators also. Don't use terminology that they don't understand. I promise you that brides and grooms really don't care what kind of camera you have, what kind of lenses you use. A rental company recently, I was doing some evaluation of their info, and everything said resin chairs. You think brides and grooms know what resin chairs are? No, just call it a white padded folding chair. There's white plastic folding chairs and white padded folding chairs. The word resin means nothing. Don't use industry jargon that you think they should know. Florists will say boot. It's boutonniere. Don't call it boots. Or lapel, lapel flowers, because Maybe it's not boutonnieres because those are only for men. But make sure selling is about having a great conversation. The outcome is the decision, but don't complicate the process by using jargon. Talk to your prospects like you would talk to your friends or your family or colleague. Break it down, make it simple, make it easy for them to understand, and don't use technical terms. Respect your client's time. When you're doing the meeting, make sure the timing's right. Let them know in advance of the meeting how long the meeting's expected to take. Double check at the start of the meeting. Okay, so you still have 90 minutes or 60 minutes. I know we had blocked an hour. I will make sure, I keep a timer running while we're on this webinar. I will respect your time to the nth degree because I know how valuable it is for you to give up your time to come and spend it with me to learn for yourself. So you always have to respect their time. If they're rushed or preoccupied, suggest rescheduling, especially if it's a phone call. I called a client this morning and at the scheduled time, he said, can you call me back in 5 minutes? I said, sure, but are you going to be done in 5 minutes or do you want me to give you a little longer than that? He was like, oh God, thank God. Can you give me 10? I said, yeah, 10's perfect. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. I'm going to respect his time because he was feeling rushed. And I know that if I called him in 5, I'm not going to get his full attention. So make sure that you're respecting the time all the way through. Keep it super simple. Don't ramble on and on about things that have no relation to anything your prospect or your bride or groom is even saying or talking about. Like, don't talk about this is, that tent conversation all over again. By really listening and asking the right questions, don't talk about stuff that doesn't matter. Don't tell them negative things that you've seen at a wedding previously. Because then they're going to oh, is that going to happen at my wedding? Keep it positive, keep it simple, pick a few things to really focus on that you believe will help your customer, focus on the benefits and how your product or service will help them. Having listened to them, you should have a good understanding of their needs in relation to your product or service. If you haven't listened, you're not going to have that info. So we get to the presentation point, and you really need to present with confidence. So this is that, you've asked all the questions. You really know what they're looking for and what they need. This is kind of that conversation that, Kara was alluding to get to the budget talk. So you get all the way through and you're saying, based upon everything you just told me you need, instead of saying, well, I have package A, package B, package C, you really know exactly which package you should be showing them. You're not going through all 6,000 options. Based upon what you've told me, this is what I think is going to be the right fit for you. So you're presenting the solution based upon what they've shared and what their needs are. You've invested the time to understand their needs, so why not recommend something that brings value to them, saves them the time and effort of looking at all these other options, and really showing them that you're hearing what they're saying. All right, ask for the business. So 3 of you said that you struggle with closing the deal. So let's say we've gone through and you've presented the packages. So when it comes to the budget, I usually will ask the question, is that what you were thinking it was going to be? That question says a lot. It's a yes-no question for sure, but I need a yes-no from them on that note. So when I say, is that kind of what you were thinking it was going to be? They're either going to tell me, yeah, that's around it, or no, that's way over. So if I'm okay, so, that's way over. So let's just use numbers to make this easy. So I just presented a $5,000 option. Whatever did you do? 5,000 is what I presented based on all their needs. So if I say, oh, is this what, you thought it was going to be in, their response is, no, it's way over. So were you thinking more 3,000 to 5,000? Or 2,000 to 4,000, use ranges. Ranges are very comfortable for people. So as much as they'll tell you all day, we don't really have a budget, when you get to the actual number and you ask them, oh, there's a budget for sure. At least there's a, oh crap number in the back of their head. So make sure using ranges, even on an initial call with a bride, when you say, do you have a budget in mind? And they say, no, I have no idea. Well, were you thinking kind of 7,000 to 10,000 or 4,000 to 7,000? Or were you thinking less than 4,000? Right then and there, I know where they're going to fall. I know that all of my options may be in the $7,000 to $10,000 range. But even when they've just told me they have no budget, when I give them a range to pick from, all of a sudden, magically, they can pick from one of the ranges. So it also, if you ask that range question early enough before you book the appointment, sometimes you don't undersell yourself, right? If you ask them, well, were you thinking 3,000 to 5,000? And most of your people only spend 2,500. And she's like, yeah, 3 to 5,000 is what I was thinking. You now know that this is a higher end ride than maybe what you're used to. So she's got more money, and that's what she expected it to cost. So we've talked about budget. We've gotten a good idea with that. When I get to the end of the meeting, and remember we started the meeting with that wonderful little upfront contract. And I'll say, I promised you that we'd be on the same page at the end. And I really think based upon the budget and what you've told me you need, that, my product or service is the right fit for what you were looking for. Do you guys still think it's an option for you? That opens the door, right? So if they're like, yeah, I'll be like, well, tell me why you think so. I make them tell me back and sell me back on why they think they want it. When I worked at a venue, it was, well, because it's just so pretty and there's hotel rooms, and they start telling me all of the pain points that I've solved with what we offer. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're saying, I know you're the right fit for us. Do you still think that we're the right fit for you? If their answer is no, it's, so tell me why you feel that way. Because maybe it's budget and you've got wiggle room to take things out of the package. Or maybe they're like, it's just not, now that I've seen more and I just don't really think we click and we fit. That's great. You can part as friends and be a trusted advisor and refer them off to some other options. But if you're going down the path and they say, yeah, this is definitely still a good option, my next step of my process would be to do the scale of 1 to 10. People hate it, but once you actually try it a few times, just promise me you'll try it once, you'll be shocked how well it works. So this is what I would say to a client. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being that you have no interest in booking with me and our product or service at all, and 10 being you're so excited that it's fit everything you were looking for and is perfect that you're ready to sign a contract and give a deposit right now. Where are you at? If they say they're at a 3, I know it's a client that I'm going to have to chase 1,000 times and she's probably not going to book. But if she says a 3, I'll ask, well, why do you think you're that low? Like why 3? Why did you pick 3? What are we not offering or what's not included that you were looking for? But if they're on the upper end of the scale, a 6 or up, I mean, a 5 is like wishy-washy. Maybe not, whatever. Anything under a 6 to me is probably not going to go to contract. But anything above a 6, I'm like, wow, we're all the way to a 6 or an 8. What do we have to do to get you from an 8 to a 10? I'm going to say that one more time. What do we have to do to get you from an 8 to a 10 or 7 to a 10? At that point, they start telling you what you missed or what you're not offering, or if it's the budget, or if mom needs to come see the venue, or if fiance Bobby needs to review the pricing or whatever. Or maybe they're not the decision maker. Maybe it's not their money. So all of those things are really important in terms of getting the right answer to ask for the business. And then I always finish with, so the next step is the 25% deposit, and signing the agreement. That'll lock in, hold the date for you, and it pulls it off of our calendar. Are you ready to move forward? I mean, it's not that complicated. Are you guys ready to move forward to the next step? If they're like, no, we're still thinking, we're not really sure, that's okay. We'll talk about that on the next slide. But sometimes they're going to say yes, but you have to ask the question. Are you ready to move forward to the next step? You have them in front of you. They are paying attention to you. They are engaged in this conversation. Don't tell them, well, I'll email you a proposal. What are you doing? Take their money. I never do a meeting without a credit card authorization form sitting in front of me. Even if I don't have their contract done, because my system requires there to be all these things that I have to merge and pull together to do a quote unquote contract. But you know what? I'd throw a credit card authorization form out there and turn around and say, well, what we can do is we can fill this out. I won't process anything until you guys sign the contract, but this at least holds you to the date. And then I'll send over the contract after the meeting. So depending upon what your system is and how you do it, and if you can have printed contracts there, just bring them. Put a blank in where you can just fill it in. There's options. So let's say they're not ready, but make sure you're discussing the next step. Summarize the meeting with an agreement between the two of you, what you're going to do as the vendor. I'm going to send you a proposal. and then when should I touch base with you? So I'm going to send a proposal today, tomorrow, on Monday, whatever. When should I touch base and, make sure you've gotten it you've received it. So not only is it an agreement in between what you're going to do for them, it's also about what the client needs to do for you, and agree date and a time for your next conversation. Whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call, whether you're going to text me, whether we're going to meet again, make sure you are both agreeing to the next steps. This meeting or conversation has to close with you both having to do something, because if they're not responsible at all, then they don't really have anything. They're just like, oh, okay, she's going to send me the proposal. Great. I don't really have to do anything. I'm just going to wait for the proposal. So make sure it's this indicator, if they're willing to set times and dates, is a great indicator of how interested they are in choosing your product or service. We're getting close to the end, so if you have any questions, make sure you pop them in the chat box, and then I'll make sure I answer them. So sell the problem that you can solve, not the product or service you provide. So this is really important. From the start of all of your marketing content, you want to make sure that you're focused on talking about the benefits of the services you provide. Most people in their website, in their emails, in their marketing materials, on social media, they talk about the features. So I'm a photographer and we offer an 8-hour package and you get beautiful pictures and blah, blah, blah. That's great. Everybody gives the same thing. What are the benefits from that? Wedding planners are the hardest, right? It's the hardest feature because everything sounds the same and it's a service. So there's no tangible. But the benefits are kick butt for a wedding planner. You get to relax and enjoy your wedding day. You don't miss anything because this is the first time you've done it, and I read all your contracts. So I make sure that no detail gets missed on wedding day, that you didn't forget the place cards or forget this piece, that the wedding day runs smooth and is enjoyable for your friends and family. Make sure you're making a list of all of the features of your business versus the benefits. The easiest and quickest way I can explain it is when I was car shopping. I was driving an SUV from Altamont to Howey in the Hills every day. It was atrocious. The gas made me sick after the first month. So I said, screw this. We're not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go get a different car. So I start shopping. Well, everywhere I went was this one's 46 miles to the gallon. This one's 52 miles to the gallon. I was like, oh, great. Okay, less is more. But how much money is this going to save me? Well, the salesperson who won me was this 19-year-old kid who looked just like Justin Bieber. I don't remember his name. I think his name was Sean, but I called him Biebs the whole time. And he sat down and said, what do you drive now? And how many miles do you get to the gallon? And how far do you drive every day? And he starts running math on a sheet of paper with a calculator. And he goes, if you bought a Prius, you would save close to $475 a month in gas alone, even including an increase in your car payment by $100 a month. You still save $475. I almost had like a heart attack. So guess what? That was the benefit. He sold me on the benefit, not on the fact that it's 55 miles to the gallon. Whatever, that sounds great. But he sold me the benefit. So sell the problem that you're solving and the need you're fulfilling, not the product or service. Listening equals more sales equals more money, the ability to help your customers, and the motivation to keep on moving and keep this train going. So you've heard all this great info. Where do you start? If you have a client meeting sheet that you use like in your meetings, whether in person or on the phone, make sure you include a little PP on there with a blank and put the pain points. When I worked as a caterer, there was this one client and I was just, we were the 5th caterer, and I said, so what have you not found? And he said, well, nobody carries Grey Goose vodka. I said, what do you mean? He goes, everybody's bar includes Absolute and blah, 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 and whatever. But nobody's bar packages include Grey Goose. And I was like, but you realize Grey Goose would be an upgrade. He goes, I'm happy to pay for it. Just nobody's even offering it. His pain point was vodka. Like, how stupid is that? Well, I won the bid and they booked us for their wedding because I was like, I can take care of that. We can get you the Grey Goose. And he was willing to pay for it. So, but that's because I worked hard to figure out his pain point. So add it to your sheet or whatever you're using to meet with clients, a spot, so you make sure you write down the pain points. Record your next client meeting on audio and listen to it after. Who did the most talking? This is the worst. You're going to hate me if you actually do this and listen to it. But this is the only way you can learn. You can also hire me to come in and listen and evaluate you and tell you how to do it better. So that's money you could spend because you'll get an honest opinion and what to work on, and immediately you'll improve. Hopefully you improve after this conversation, but record yourself. That's it. Just try it. Next phone call, next whatever, set your phone to record. Focus on connecting with their needs and less on selling your product or service. What I will tell you is a wedding planner who did this webinar at 10 a.m. this morning proceeded to call and chase all of her leads, and she had 2 meetings booked today, and she has signed 3 contracts today. And she keeps texting me all day as it's going, and she was like, I just listened. I just let them talk. I just asked more questions. I can't believe this stuff works. This will work if you try it. So make sure that you're using this as part of your sales structure. If you're not already on the newsletter, which means you're not getting the e-blast, let me know. But usually I'll add anybody who registered for the webinar. If you guys are okay with that. If you're not, please put it in the chat box or private message me. But you'll learn about upcoming webinars, the website launch, opportunities for us to collaborate, advertising options, all that good stuff. Next month is customer reviews, the gift that keeps on giving. Next month will no longer be free for the webinars. It will be free for Perfect Wedding Guide advertisers, members of the Central Florida Wedding Association, and advertisers on Wedding Venue Map, on the printed map or on the website. For everyone else, the early bird's only $5. So all of these webinars take a lot of time and a lot of effort for me to put together all these slides and all this great info, and I've done it 3 times today. So just making sure that, you know, if it's going to be a benefit really for our advertisers, for them to keep their education going and keep learning. Nobody's put any questions in the box, so I'm going to pop my video back on and stop sharing my screen. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Like, just ask. I'm happy to help with anything that you need. If there's anywhere that you're stuck, we've got a few more minutes. Just let me know sooner than later. Does anybody have any questions? I'll give it like 30 seconds or so. Hopefully I'll get the chance to see you at the next webinar. I'll be at Central Florida Wedding Association's meetings this month. I'll be at the Perfect Wedding Guide Luncheon. Oh, Bumby, I just suck at the close. I get it. You just have to ask for it. Once you start trying to ask for it, I promise you that it will be better. Oh, that was great. Do you have a webinar on getting to the presentation point? Oh, like how to get more specific with me. What are you looking for? Like, at what point do we get there? So most of the time you start with bonding and rapport. You're doing a lot of questioning techniques, and that's part of the bonding. Oh, how to get the client to contact you. No, but that's on the list of topics. I think I might do it for the Central Florida Wedding Association as an upcoming actual presentation in person of, you're talking about like you've got the lead, but you're trying to get them to book the time. Is that the question you're asking, Ed? Let me know. Or is that how to get more leads? What I hear is people are getting leads and then everybody's ghosting and they're not responding. But try some of these questioning techniques to your leads. The wedding planner who started playing follow-up this morning, get more leads or following up on the one, get them in or on a call maybe. Just stop thinking big picture. Today's world, everybody's super freaking busy, including me, including you. I had a 30-minute call today. He needed 10 more minutes. It cut us down to 20 minutes. That was the only time he had all day. So I understand we're all busy. So stop thinking about, I need to have a 1-hour meeting, and start thinking shorter phone calls to at least have a quick conversation so you can qualify the lead. Most people are pushing hard for the come in and meet, come in and meet. Well, have you been on I-4 lately? It's atrocious. So I don't want to get in a car after I worked all day, drive to go meet with a vendor, or take a day off of work when I can spend 10 minutes on the phone and maybe get a better idea as to if they're the right fit or not. So stop thinking all the way through and think shorter time frames and quicker opportunities to get them on the phone. And don't just send out your pricing, because if you just whip the pricing out to them without talking to them about it at all, but if you promise that on the 5-minute phone call you'll give them the pricing, they'll probably schedule the 5-minute phone call. So hopefully that helps answer the questions a little bit as to what that'll be. But maybe I have a friend who's really good at writing emails. That's what she does for a living. She does content creation. So maybe I'll have her help me out and do a webinar about how to write more creative emails and see, hopefully that'll help people out. Thanks, guys, so much for coming out tonight. I know it's a long day, and a lot of you work all day, and then you're on here spending time with me tonight, so don't think it's not appreciated. And if I can do anything to help, just let me know, and I will email this out in just a little bit. Hopefully tonight. It takes a little bit to convert to a recording, but as soon as it's done, I'll send it out. So thank you so much. Make sure you're following us on social media. Jump on. I'll send the email out. It'll have a link also to review this webinar. Please let me know what time of day, days of week, topics, what you like, what you didn't like. Be honest, so that way I can make them better in the future. And thanks for the tip on the topic. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.